Okay. We are back. How's everybody doing? As you can see in the background, we are up to chapter 16. That means we only have 2 chapters to go, this and one more, right? And so we will be doing a breakdown as we do depending on the chapter, but so far I decided to use um the information from the last 4, right? So wait, we up to 16. No. The last 5, right? So the last 5 I'ma do a separate show on, like I've been doing with a couple of the other ones. So just so you know, right now we're just doing chapter 16. So how's everybody doing? As you know, I am Juice Warner, and this is Your Gritty Grand Strains. Hold on, let me make sure something here. Turn this down. All right, turn this off. Okay. Oh, and by the way, you can check out my book, Street Scalzi, Knock 'em Out the Box, on Amazon right now. As you can see, it's an official book, 400-page read. It's a murder mystery about 2 brothers on the opposite side of the law who must team up in order to find their father's killer or killers. It's a murder mystery. It runs through it runs through 5 boroughs in 3 states, right? New York and, a couple of others. You should check it out. I'm telling you, it's a great read. I put a lot of effort into that. I got a new book I'm working on now. Hopefully, I can have it out soon. I'm actually working on it while doing this right here. It has a lot to do with a lot of this information, not necessarily inside of this book, but based on, like I said, this Freemasonic information. So, I don't want to even give you a working title right now. I have a working title, but I'm just seeing how I work with it. Anyway, chapter 16. The Masonic Tragedy, Murder of Hiram, Historically False, a substitute for Osiris, candidate kneeling to pray, personates the sun god in his conflict with night, is slain by Jubellum, body concealed, buried in foot of tamarick tree, at the foot of, supposed to be the tamarick tree. Search for the body, loss of master's word, substitute of Mahabone, possession, prayer at the grave, raising of the body. Now, just for the record, if you see me looking here and there, I actually have 2 screens, so I bounce back and forth, and the camera is actually in the middle of both of these 2. So just in case you might see me looking over there, you're like, what the hell is he looking at? Just so you know. Now, Mr. Burton is the father. Henry is his son. He's trying to explain to his son why he should not join Freemasonry. So we're up to 16. He's at the end now with basically showing his son this wicked system. If you're not up, you can go and look at the other 16 chapters, or like I said, you can go through many of the topics that I'm going through, many of the sub feeds that I made for this, and it's all basically giving you what is being said within this system right here, right? The celebrated drama or cynic representation of the pretended death of Hiram Abiff, based upon the foregoing legend, is unquestionably the most interesting, if not the most important portion of the whole Masonic system, and is which gives the master degree the chapter of sublime. But nevertheless, like every other part of the Masonic philosophy, it is a sublime falsehood. In the end, becomes to the candidate a sublime fierce farce. My fault, like a falsehood. No such event ever transpired at the building of the temple, but on the very contrary, it is distinctly stated in the scriptures that Hiram, the widowed son of Tyre, not only was not slain before the temple was completed, but that he actually finished all the work. Pardon me here, right? He had for King Solomon for the house of the Lord. In 1 Kings, we see that number 740, we read, and Hiram made the levers and the shovels and the basin. So Hiram made an end of doing all the work that he made King Solomon for the house of the Lord. Oh, and please do not hesitate to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell, so you can constantly be notified whenever new content is being loaded or we going live. And don't forget to check out, right, we're having a giveaway for the 200 subscriber. This is the Gritty New York Cup on one side and the old York Gritty on the other. I had to think about that because I had to stop and get me something to drink here. You know what I'm saying? So, grab this and show you. And you don't have to worry about shipping and handling. We cover everything. It's free of charge to the 200th subscriber. And it goes, and again, in 2 Corinthians 4:11, and Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the basin, and Hiram finished all the work that he was to make for King Solomon for the house of the Lord. But Hiram, in the manner previously explained, having been adopted as the hero god of masonry, substitute Osiris, or the sun god of the mysteries in the Syriac representation of his pretended death, is performed with all the mock ceremonies imaginably. The candidate is made to represent him in every single element of the Masonic legend, because that was the mode of initiation into the great mysteries. And true or false, Freemasonry must establish beyond any question its perfect identity with the secret system of sun worship. I'm not really sure what we have over here. Right? I'm not really sure what that is, but proof of this we read in the Lexicon of Freemasonry, page 130, as follows. The mysteries of Osiris form the third degree or summit of the Egyptian initiation, and these murders of Osiris by his brother Typhoon was represented in the god was personated by the candidate, right? In perfect harmony with this explanation, we have its literal counterpart in the Masonic philosophy, so that it might be correctly read. The mysteries of Hiram form the third degree or summit of ancient craft masonry. In these, the death of Hiram by his brother Typhoon is represented, and the gods is personated by the candidate. Both legions and both cynics representation are exactly the same, and all there is to be done is to change one name for another and use the present tense in describing the ceremonies of the lodge. Again, Typhoon was the symbol of winter, which destroyed the sundunctioning. My fault. You see it right here. Fish dunkening, and fertilizing power of the sun, thus as it were depriving him of life. This was the catastrophe celebrated in the mysteries, and the aspirant was made by past fictitious through the suffering and death of Osiris. Again, in the traditions of Freemasonry, page 233, the candidate in these initiations was made to pass through and mimic representation of the conflict and destruction of Osiris, and eventually recover of his body, and the explanation made to him after he had received a full share of light, to which the painful and solemn ceremonies through which he had passed had enlightened him, continued the secret doctrines the object of all the mysteries. This is precisely what takes place in the Master Mason's degree. The candidate is made to represent the death of the sun god, or the fixed dunkening and fertilizing power of the sun, under the fictitious name of Hiram Abiff. And this dramatic representation is the last great link which connects this idolatrous system of demon mythology to the old Baal or sun worship of the mysteries. We shall now examine this drama in detail and follow the candidate in all the various incidents of his conflict, death, and subsequent disposal of his body, as related in the legend of Osiris. Having passed through the first section of the degree, and having resumed his clothing in the preparation room, and being invested with his apron and with a small plum suspended from his neck, he is ushered believe that's ushered into the lodge and all necessary preparations for the sublime drama which is to follow, having been already made by the senior deacon as detailed in the handbook, page 194 and 95. The candidate is called to the east and addressed as follows by the worshipful master. Worshipful master, bro, Hunt, you now no doubt consider yourself a master mason and as such entitled to all the rights and privilege of a master mason, do you not? The candidate either nods his head in affirmation or else answers, I do. Worshipful master, I presume you did from the jewels you wear it bring the jewels of one of the principal officers of this lodge, alluding to the small plum hanging from his neck. But, my brother, it becomes my duty to inform you that you are not yet a master mason, neither do you know that you ever shall be. You have yet a rough and rugged road to travel, one besets with ruffians and it may be with murderers. You should lose, and should you lose your life in the conflict, yours will not be the first. But remember, in whom you place your trust, and he that enthralled unto the end and same shall be saved. On a former occasion, you had someone to pray for you, but now you have none. You must pray for yourself. You will therefore suffer yourself to be again hoodwinked. Kneel where you now stand and pray either mentally or orally as you see fit, but when done, signify the same by saying amen aloud. The senior deacon now steps forward and again fastens a hoodwink securely over the candidate's eyes and causes him to kneel on both knees as it were to pray. The worshipful master stands up, removes his hat, and gives 3 raps, calling all the brethren to their feet, and thus standing, they await for some minutes till the candidate is supposed to have done praying and says amen aloud. The figure in the next page accurately represents the minister or saloon keeper as he is again blindfolded and kneels once more to make mockery of prayer in a Masonic lodge, with a brethren standing around and hogly enjoying his miserable appearance. Having said amen, he is ordered to arise and make his progress. The lodge being again seated, the various incidents, details, and the previews legend of Hiram now began to be enacted. Okay, my fault. I was looking at something over there. previous legend of Hiram now begin to be enacted. The candidate is assisted to his feet by the senior deacon and conducted in the usual manner once around the lodge. When they approach the junior warden station in the south, he is accosted by a pretended ruffian, or perhaps a real one, named Jubella, right? Who thrice demanded of him the secret of the master mason, or the master's word, and being in his behalf thrice the ruffian by the senior deacon. He strikes him lightly with the 12/4-inch gauge across his throat. He is then rushed toward the senior warden sex station in the west, where he is met by a second ruffian named Jubello, who also demands of him the secret of a master mason, or the master's word. And being again refused, he strikes him with the square across his left breast. Faint and bleeding as it were, he is now hurried along to the east gate, but in the northeast corner he is attacked by the third ruffian, Jubellum, who is in like manner demands of him the secret of the master mason, or the master's word, and upon a like refusal he strikes him a blow with a lethal mallet called a setting mallet, maul, and pitches him backwards into a canvas held by six of the brethren. He is now supposed to be dead, and in this manner the first 5 incidents in the legend of Osiris are performed. Hiram, or the candidate, is claimed to have had a vulnerable possession. There is a conspiracy to obtain that the valuable possessions are at any hazard. Then follows the conflicts, that the conflict ends in death, and that death is by the hand of a brother. The figure on the following page represents the sun god, personated by the candidate, passing through these scenes of fierce and terrible conflict with the conspirators, representing Typhoon, or the powers of darkness at the southwest and northeast. All right, so we got the east over here. See the figure where he falls down, where he strikes him, strikes again, right? So the candidate representing the sun god in his conflict with the night or darkness, right? Now, to understand all this, let us remember that the candidate represents Osiris, or Baal, or Hiram, which are all one and the same principle, and that the principle is the fertilizing and fixed dung dating powers of the sun. The sun god. Let us also bear in mind that there is supposed to be a constant, unceasing conflict going on between this sun god and the night or darkness. Now, the sun appearing in the east and the morning rises higher and higher in the heavens until at Meridian, he attains his highest point of elevation in the south. The moment he arrives at the south gate, however, that moment he begins to descend and there receives, as it were, the first blow from typhoon or night, continuing to descend in constantly hurrying towards the west gate. He at length sets behind the western horizon, and there the sun god is supposed symbolically to receive the second blow. After the setting of the sun, there is but a feeble light, represented by the feeble condition of the candidate. It is natural enough, after having received two terrific blows, and so, in the weak and wasted condition, Twilight lingers on, still engaged in deadly conflict with his relentless enemies, until at last he is entirely overcome. Night swoops down upon the earth, and darkness everywhere prevails. The sun god, having received all it were, the final blow which deprives him of life. On page 358, figure 1, represented in moral strife between light and darkness. After Miriam, page figure 2, represented the conflict of the west, which caused the sun god to disappear. And figure 3 represents the death when light becomes entirely extinct and night is triumph. The light in the large rooms are also turned down, and everywhere is shrouded in gloom and mournful sympathy with the loss of the beloved Osiris, personated by the candidate. This whole scene is termed the aphorism, and is explained in the symbolism of Freemasonry, page 317, as follows. In each of the initiations of the ancient mysteries, there was a scenic representation of the death or disappearance of some god or hero whose adventures constituted the legend of the mystery. The part of the institution which relates to and represented the death or disappearance was called the aphorism. Freemasonry, which has in its ceremonial form been founded after the model of these ancient mysteries, has also its aphorism in the third degree. The candidate, having been struck by the setting maw or jabellum and thrown back into the canvas as already stated, and then laid upon his back on the floor and covered up. All the brethren except the three pretended ruffians, Jubello, and Jabellum, retired to their seats, and these standing near their victims and realizing in some measure the enormities of their crime, determined to concealed the body in the rubbish of the temple until low 12 or 12 at night, when they agreed to meet again and give it a more decent burial. They then lay hold of the canvas and slowly convey the dead body of Hiram, or the sun god, to the southeast corner, where they cover it with anything that comes next to hand, representing its concealment in the rubbish, while Jebelum sits near to watch, and the other two repaired towards the west end of the lodge, as the ritual expresses it, to dig a grave. In the meantime, pardon me, I'm hearing an echo. In the meantime, the master or secretary strikes low 12 on the gong or bell that keeps that bell always kept for that perfect purpose, indicating midnight, and hence the complete emissions of light. Jubela or Jubelo again stealthily approaches the spot where the body is concealed, and after mutual recognition and inquiry between the supposed ruffians, it is agreed that they convey it a westerly course to a spot where a pretended grave has been prepared, and there bury it. According to the dead candidate or the murdered sun god, it again lifts up and borns in slow and solemn procession on the shoulders of the brethren to the senior water station, where he is finally interred and laid on the floor in a due east and west position, and the senior warden column is placed standing near his head to represent the acarus or tamarind tree at the foot of of which the body of Osiris was buried, as related in the legend. The three ruffians then propose at once to make their escape. Typhoon or night and darkness, to all appearances, has now completely triumphed. Osiris or Baal is fertilizing and fishicating powers of the sun, is now apparently buried out of sight. The lodge becomes a house of mourning, and Isis or nature sweeps for a loss of her husband, referring to this Malkani scene, and at the same time conclusively providing what has been already stated, that the so-called higher degree are by so many developments of the sublime degree of Master Mason. We read as follows in the book of the ancient and accepted ScottishRite, page 355, 356. MP, my brother, the power of darkness has prevailed over the Prince of Light, and the earth mourns, and the wrinkles with frost. All nature laments, and we share the common sorrow. Excellent Senior Warden, let's pray. Let's prayers be offered up in the tabernacle of the return of the light and the accession of the sun. That's that old Yorkrite right there. So look at that. I guess it was the light was reflecting off the green. Don't forget, 200 subscriber gets themselves an old Yorkrite coffee mug and a free copy of Street Skelzy Knock 'em Out the Box, available now on Amazon Books, Lulu, and many others. Let's get back to this. Pardon me here. Where we at? Senior Warden, most pursuant or ancient taskmaster on the banks of the now mournful Cyrus, the Chaldean laminate of for Baal or Baal, and the Possession for Tammuz, the Phrygian women clash their cymbals and weep for Astasy, while far in the Indies the Brahmins pray for the return of Kama. MP. We, like our ancient masters, weep for Cyrus, the type to us of the sun, the type to us of the sun, of light, of life, of light, of life. Weep, my brethren, for Osiris, weep for the light lost, the life departed, and the good and the beautiful oppressed by evil. This from such high authority proves beyond any power of denial that the dead candidate in the Masonic Lodge and the Osiris or Baal of the mysteries are one and the same character, while it also explains as clearly as can possibly be done the true meaning of Ezekiel 8. 14, 15, and 16, where a similar scene is described as being impulse practiced in the secret worship of idolatrous Jews. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north, and behold, there sat a woman weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and I will show thee great abominations than these. And he brought me unto the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of the Lord, and their face towards the east, and they worshiped the sun towards the east, precisely what is done in the Masonic Lodge, and as an act of worship. The figures on the following page represents the candidate in the three positions before described. Figure 1 represents him where he is supposed to have been slain. In figure 2, he lies in the southeast corner of the lodge, concealed under the rubbish. And in figure 3, he is buried in a grave dug due east and west, at the foot of a tamarind tree. Now, to understand the reason for these different, now here go the loadout right here, right? So See the A and the B. All right. The candidate represents Osiris by Typhoon in A, born by the river Nile in B, and buried in D. Right? So this is D, this is C, this is the river's Nile, right? That's the candidate. Okay. So, and don't forget, you can actually get this book. This is a PDF book, so you can get it. All you gotta do is type in the Master's Carpet PDF. I actually owned the book, so it also goes by Mahabone. Right, actually, when I had it, how I actually found this book was through Mahabone. I didn't know about the Master's Carpet at that time. So this is like, for me, this book goes back to the 1800s. I knew about the book now since the early 2000s, so roughly like 20 years for me knowing the book. So I'm offering it to you now that Facebook and YouTube and all of these different things. So this is me, and I'll be offering you many books and many understandings of which you are actually dealing with. But after this, I feel that even in the statements of understanding that you will be dealing with real ruffians, and we're talking now, the things that I say outside, I will be constantly referencing to this book and saying, well, if you want to understand, we'll go into this section to understand this part, like the working part of Freemasonry, right? And so, we'll be able to keep moving without always reiterating the same thing. I'm one of them people that's the reason why I don't post a lot, because I'll watch shows and stuff like that, and I'll be going, okay, I could use this show, but then it'd be so much stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm really trying to, like, once I really get a following, and people really, it's not even the following, it's more the interaction, because with that interaction you can show what they might be missing, but that also allows you for myself to open up and really lead somebody to an understanding, right? Whatever understanding that is, I can only provide the information. I'm not trying to get somebody to, change their mind, anything like that. Moment of the candidate's body. We must refer once more to the Egyptian legend when Osiris, the slain, was slain by Typhoon and his body enclosed in a chest. It will be remembered that he was thrown in the river Nile and born out of the Mediterranean Sea. This is represented by conveying the candidate's body from A to B. The winds and the waves of the Mediterranean, it is further asserted, bore Osiris' body a waterly course to a place called Babos in Philistine, where it finally reposed at the foot of the tamarind tree, in like manner represented by the bearing the candidate's body from B to D and burying it as before described at the foot of the tamarind or acarus tree, thus reproducing scenes that 6 of the Osirian legend, in the 6th in the Osirian legend, right? So as soon as the proposed ruffians have effected their escape, as alluded to on page 362, they are quite a communication. There is quite a commotion. My fault. I'm saying community. There's quite a commotion in the large room. Everyone seems to be trying how crazily he can act, but after a few minutes, the worshipful master raps with his gavel, and all again is peacefully still. The Grand Master Hiram is reported missing. No work is laid out and no design are upon the tessel board. About this time, an alarm is heard at the door. An announcement is made, and 12 fellow crafts, who of course are master masons under the name of fellow crafts, all without clad in white gloves. The aprons who say they have important tidings to communicate and desire an audience with the majesty, i.e., with the worshipful master, who throughout the whole of this ceremony represents King Solomon. The fellow craft are admitted and proceeding at once to the master's station in the east. They relate at length all the supposed facts connected with the conspiracy against Hiram. They own shares in the wicked plot at first. Their consequent recantation, and now freely acknowledging their premeditated guilt, they on their bend knees most humble implore his pardon. In relation to the meaning and the use of the number 12 in the Masonic system, the large book explains as follows. Mackey's Manual, page 100. The number 12 was celebrated in the mystical numbers in the ancient symbol of the sun worship, of which it has already been laid that masonry is a philosophical development. Pay attention to that, right? The number there referred to as the 12 signs of the zodiac and those Masonic rites in which the builders, i.e. Hiram, is made a symbol of the sun. The 12 FC refer to the 12 signs in which alone the sun is to be found. The first search. The 12th act, the seventh act in the Masonic drama is now performed. King Solomon orders these fellow crafts divide themselves into two parties and travel 3 east, 3 west, and 3 north, and 3 south in search of the ruffian, and return not without tidings. All the brethren, of course, take their each except 3 who were always supposed to be well posted and thoroughly drilled in doing what is technically called the floor works. And these now proceedings with their search to represent Osiris in the Egyptian legend. Searching for the body of Osiris, they pass out by the preparation room door and enter the lodge again after a few minutes by the anteroom door, where they meet the junior deacon. carelessly lounging and representing a wayfaring man when the following dialogue takes place, performing the eighth act as related in the legend, and interrogating whoever they meet. The fellow craft in search of the ruffians. Hello, friend. Have you seen any stranger pass this way, Junior Deacon? I have. 3. What sort of appearing men were they, Junior Deacon? They appeared to be working men from the Temple of Jerusalem, seeking a passage to Ethiopia, but not having King Solomon's pass, they were unable to attain passage and turn back into the country. Fellowcraft, addressing his companions, why these are the very men of whom we are in search. Turning to Junior Deacon, you say they returned back into the country. Junior Deacon, they did. Fellow craftsmen, to his companion, why these are the important tidings. Let us go up and report this to King Solomon. The following engraving represents the fellow craft interrogating everyone whom they meet in the procession of their search, just as Isis interrogated everyone whom she met when searching for the body of Osiris. Having reported the conversation with the wayfaring man and having received strict instructions from King Solomon, the worshipful master, to be sure to find the ruffians, they once more continued their search, which, like that of Isis, is also pretended to be long and wearisome. They pass out the preparation room door as before and returning after a short absence by way of the anteroom door. They approach the spot where the candidate is lying. One of them, pretending to be very tired and all feeling more or less dejected because of fruitlessness in their efforts to find the ruffian, he sits down near the head of the supposed grave, as they say to the rest of the ruffian himself. To rest and refresh himself. Okay. Having made up their mind to continue the search in another direction, this weary brother is called upon to arise and go along, and on attempting to do so accidentally, as it were, catches hold of the acra or little column standing near the candidate's head, and pretending to have pulled it up by the roots, calls upon his companions to return. They do so, and while wandering at this singular circumstance, they hear 3 horrid exclamations proceeding from the preparation room, and recognizing the voice of the escaped ruffians, they finally rush in, seize and bind them, and bring them in mock captivity before King Solomon, the worshipful master. And thus the ninth item of the legend is represented. They accidentally find the object of their search, just as Isis discovered her husband's body the first time. The second search, this is the second search. The ruffians being disposed of according to ancient usage and as prescribed in the several penalties of symbolic masonry, the three fellow crafts are now condemned to go in search of the body, and when found, to observe whether the master's word or the key to it or anything pertaining to the master's degree be on or about the body. The second journey in search of Hiram's body is represented. The second journey undertaken by Isis in search of the body of Osiris, and as the latter was found in a mutilated condition, so in like manner, the fellow crafts discover the body of Hiram in a similar condition, and thus the elevated and 12th incident of the Osirian legend are represented. Having found the body, they now search for the master's word or a key to it, according to the order of King Solomon. All right, so the body, see a body right there. Okay. The above engraving represents the fellow craft, two saloon keepers and a Jew peddler. Right, and a Jew peddler, as they search and fumble over the body of the dead candidate, doctor of divinity or gambler, pretending to search for the master's word, in which, of course, they know well he never possessed. After a while, however, they lay hold of a little plum, previously mentioned as being suspended from his neck, and pretending even to be ignorant of what that is, or to what special use it might be put to. They conclude to report the whole matter to King Solomon, if he said nothing about the master's word or the key to it, they would not. They accordingly do this, and is being then ascertained beyond a doubt that although the body was found, yet the master's word was unfortunately lost, and the last great incident of this unearthly mastery in its incandescent unearthly mystery in its coincidence with the legend of Osiris is then represented. So now we got the substitute. The worshipful master rising to his feet and very reverently receiving the plum from the brother who presents it, pronounces it indeed the jewel of our Grand Master Hiram Abiff, and then continues as follows. I should have put the picture up when I was doing this, man. But I got a whole show on it. So there can be no long. That's why I keep thinking about. That's why I keep thinking about as I read this part. There can be no longer a doubt of his untimely end. You 12 fellow crafts will now form a solemn procession and go and assist me in rising the body. And my worthy companions of Tyr, addressing the senior warden as Hiram, king of Tyr, since the master's word is now lost, I propose that the first sign made upon arriving at the grave and the first word spoken after the body shall be raised, shall be adopted as the sign and word for the regulation of all master lodges until future generations shall find out the right. Handbook, page 119. In the mysteries of Osiris, the substitute was called Phallus. In the mysteries of Hiram, it is called Mahabone. And as the point within the circle represents the phallus, and as it also, as we have previously learned, represents the worshipful master, and lastly, as the worshipful master represents the sun god rising in the east. Therefore, it undoubtedly follows that Mahabone is the real name of the god of masonry. The G, the grand architect of the universe, of its worship, which Freemasons are always to pronounce with awe and reverence, and which, in fact, they are solemnly sworn never to speak about above their breath, and even when only upon the 5 points of fellowship. And this being unquestionably the case, the religion of Freemasonry ought to be consistent, in all consistency to be called the mysteries of Mahabone. And the religion of Egypt was recently called the mysteries of Osiris. But to continue, the master and brethren as above, but to continue, the master and brethren as above indicated approaches the spot where the candidate had been lying during all this time, and his hoodwink being now slipped off, they march in solemn procession 3 times around the pretended grave, singing a dullified ditty. The handbook, page 218. The following cut illustrates the procession with the Doctor of Divinity still lying on the floor, shaming death. It is Saturday night and drawing close to 12 o'clock. This man, thus lying there, is expected to occupy some Christian pulpit on the approaching Sabbath. Now, does this picture suit you? You ask, can a man be a Mason and a Christian? My dear sir, answer your own question. Can this minister lying here on the lodge floor be a Christian? He is undoubtedly a sworn worshiper of Baal, for the fact that he is just now representing the Baal or Tammuz of the ancient mysteries. Tell me then, Though all this initiatory ceremonies, tell me then, do all his initiatory ceremonies thus far, and more especially in his present position, can you say that he is a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ? No, I can't. Well, who knows? Why can't he be? And now, whence did the ceremony come? And why is it performed in a Masonic lodge room? The answer is given as in the case of all the other ceremonies in Masonry, that it was directly borrowed from the pagan religions of the mysteries and shapes Egyptian mythology in Sharpe's Egyptian mythology, page 10, we read that the death of Osiris was precisely laminated by Isis and her sister Nefertiti, and once a year the Egyptians joined their priests in a monopoly. Sorry, I can't. Oh, okay. Wait, how the hell does that look so different right there? Melancholy, I know I'm still saying it wrong. Procession through the streets singing a dullified ditty called the Manna Rose, or Song of Love, which was to counsel the goddess for the loss of her husband. And because the Egyptian sun worshipper joined their priest in a Malakali procession singing a dullified ditty, the commemorations of the death of Osiris show the Masonic fraternity or the modern Baal worshippers in imitation of their ancient brethren join their priest in a similar procession and for precisely the same purpose. Let me so you see the performing the act right there, right? The procession being ended, they again surround the body by the request of King Solomon. Two attempts are made to rise it, but both fail, and consequently, it is supposed purification. Okay, purification. Unless that's, I don't know. Is that a putrefaction? In the first instance, the skin slipping from the flesh, and the other, the flesh cleaving from the bone. The master and brethren then kneel, and another mock prayer is mumbled in solemn blasphemy over the protest minister as represented by the above. Engraving at the close of this so-called prayer, the master takes hold of the candidate's right hand by a strong grip of the master mason or lion's paw, as an annex figure. Annex figure with the assistance of the senior warden, right? See a little clear now. Okay, senior warden. Let me see. You could probably let's see, come over here. Oh man, I thought I had these. He shut in there. My fault. Yeah, I thought I had him in there. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna zoom it in right to there. But anyway, you can see it right here. Figure with assistance, the senior warden raises him to his feet on the 5 points of the fellowship and worshipers Mahabone. Oh, and whispers Mahabone in his ear. All the lights are again turned on. There is a very general feeling of pleasurable relief, and thus it as was in the mysteries, so it is also in masonry. The ceremonies that were being in not in sorrow and lamentations, as Pearson's expressed it, traditions, page 232, are now ended, and joy and rejoicing. The annex figure correctly represents the master and candidate on the 5 point of fellowship. Right? Okay. So it goes 5 points of fellowship. While this Grand Masonic word Mahabone, the unspoken name of the god of Freemasonry, is being communicated. And thus, my dear Henry, every incident recorded in the legend of Osiris as being connected with this supposed tragical death and subsequent search of Isis, and the finding of his body is literally reproduced in the Masonic drama in relation to the supposed death and burial and pretended rising of Hiram O. Biff. It says, Osiris has a valuable possession to kingdom. Hiram has a valuable possession to master's word. Typhoon and his followers conspire against Osiris. 15 fellow craft conspire against Hiram. The conspirators have a conflict with Osiris. 3 ruffians have a conflict with Hiram. Hiram is slain by his brother Jubellum. Osiris is slain by his brother Typhoon. Osiris' body is buried at the foot of the tamarind tree. Hiram's body is buried at the foot of an acorus tree. There is the first search by the fellow craft. There is a first search by Isis. Isis accidentally discovers the body. The fellow craft accidentally discover the 3 ruffians. There is a second search by the fellow craft for the mutilated body of Hiram. There is a second search by Isis for the mutilated body of Osiris. Isis discovers the body, but one part is lost. Hiram's body, but the master's word is lost. He's been castrated. He don't talk back. He don't talk back now. King Solomon alias the worshipful master substitutes Mahatma Bone for the Lord's word. Isis substitute the phallus for the lost part. Every single point of the mystery of Osiris has its literal counterpart in the mysteries of Masonry, so that no doubt can possibly remain as to the absolute identity of both systems. Even the manner of rising Hiram in the Masonic Lodge, the position of the worshipful master over the prostrate candidate, as seen on page 375, in the means adopted by his supposed restoration to life. The lion's paw were accidentally represented among the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt and have all been borrowed from the source alone, and accompanying complex figures was copied by the Abbey Pulch from the collection of Montefusion, in which he says it painted on a mummy at the Austin Furious of La Place des Victorias represented the death and resurrection of Osiris. Let me see the picture here in the back, right? Should know there's something there, right? See Isis there, right? Okay. Okay. The signs of Leo, or the lion, is transformed into the couch upon which Osiris is laid out as dead, under which are three